All right, the last week has given us a lot of clarity on the Iowa starting lineup for the 24-25 season. I'm going to give you my prediction for who I think is going to be the starters for Iowa at all 10 weight classes. And starting at 125, I think we're going to see a change in who wrestles at that weight class. It was Drake Ayala, the NCAA finalist last year. Spencer Lee had held down that weight previously. Now I believe Drake Ayala is going to go up to 133 pounds, and it leaves a hole, to be frank. There's not a lot of clear options that can come in, step in, that you think could qualify and win some matches at the national tournament. That's not clear. Right now, someone like Joey Cruz, who is a highly touted recruit out of California, could be that guy. He was 3-6 last year, so he's got a long ways to go before he's really contributing at the Big Ten and the NCAA level. I'm wondering, do we see a shift where someone like a Cale Peterson, who probably thought he had a good shot at starting at 133, now that door's probably closed with Drake there. Does he try to work himself down to 125 and give that a shot? Might be a better option than trying to start at 133 when you've got the returning 125-pound NCAA finalist and Drake Ayala there. So maybe we see Cale make that change. I don't know. I've heard that could be a possibility, but that would be a serious weight cut. But, you know, you think of someone, not talking about a little bit of ancient history, Matt McDonough was a guy who spent his redshirt year at 133 pounds, and then they needed him down at 125. He got down there, won a national title. I'm not predicting that for Cale Peterson, but we have seen guys redshirt at one weight and then descend later on. So this is, but to be clear, this is going to be a tough weight for Iowa. They're going to have a hard time winning many points here. If they qualify this weight for nationals, I think that's a small victory in reality. But from 33 on, this lineup really slaps. You've got Drake Ayala, I already talked about him, NCAA finalist. How's he going to do up at a weight class? And this is a weight that it's been for so long has been dominated by the Roman Bravo Young, the Dayton Fix, Vito Arujau, on and on. Now those guys are all gone, and now it's Ryan Crookham's weight, and you got Nasir Bailey. Feels like he could be a finalist up at this weight class as well. And we all kind of know that Drake was cutting a lot of weight last year, and that can, you know, change how well you wrestle. I think we saw some losses maybe that could be attributed to that weight cut. Now, how much more active does Drake Ayala look up at 133 pounds? I think he could do really, really well there. 141 pounds is probably the second biggest question mark weight class for the Hawks. You could see Cullen Shriver man that weight. He spent some time at 133, and with Drake Ayala up there, that's not going to be an option anymore. So maybe he goes up. But I think what is most likely is we see Ryder Block, who redshirted last year, didn't get to wrestle because he was recovering from an injury. I think he goes down to 141. I think he mans that spot. He was a number 1, number 2 ranked guy coming out of high school. A lot of attacks from space. He's a pretty offensive guy. But we haven't seen him in action in quite a while. So I'm excited to see what Ryder Block can potentially do. And I think the most upside for Iowa at 141 is with Ryder Block holding down that spot. 149, it's pretty clear it's going to be Kyle Parko. He transferred from Arizona State, ranked really high throughout the year. He's a multiple All-American. I'm going to try to finish on the podium for the 4th time in his career. Probably going to, you know, be one of the guys that can contend to make the NCAA finals. Now, this could be an adjustment for him. First time, he's not going to be in the Arizona State schedule. He's going to have to do a Big Ten schedule. That's really tough on a 5th and 6th year guy like Parko. But he's a great hand fighter. He's got a lot of offense. He has a lot of ways to score. I think he's going to fit in perfectly for Iowa and be exactly what they need at 149 pounds, as is his former Sun Devil teammate, Ja'Cory Teemer. Ja'Cory was at Arizona State. He's transferring to Iowa. He's the number 1 ranked guy. Now, Ja'Cory, if you haven't got to watch, if you're an Iowa fan, you haven't watched Ja'Cory much yet, he's got a really unique style. He's got crazy counters. When you attack his legs, he can counter score as well as anyone. Tough from the top position, can really wrestle from everywhere, and showed a lot last year making the NCAA finals. And they're going to look for that kind of production. The guy that beat him in the NCAA finals, Levi Haynes, he's now up, not wrestling at 157 anymore. So he's the number 1 guy. And national title, if Iowa's going to try to contend and get back in that trophy race and even contend for that top spot, they need Ja'Cory to not just be an All-American. They need him to be a national champion, national finalist. That's the kind of expectations they're going to be around Ja'Cory coming into this year. It's a different sort of thing wrestling for Iowa. Same for Parko. 165, Michael Caliendo had a fantastic showing last year. Wound up placing 4th at NCAAs. He's going to be number 2 to start the year. And really, there's not while I don't think he's likely to win NCAAs because Mitchell Messenbrink's there and he was really dominant, you know, you lose a Dean Hamady and you lose some of the other tough 65s like Keegan O'Toole. And I really think he is kind of a solid guy to finish second at 165. Now I'm curious for how Cam Amin looks and does and performs at Oklahoma State. But still, I think you can expect really high contributing points for Michael Caliendo. He was so consistent all last year, and he's been consistent really his whole career. And I don't expect that to change for him coming into this year for Iowa. Then at 174, this little cluster is the most questionable group in terms of who's going to go where. And really, I could have mentioned one of these names for 165, but I think 174 is going to be held down by Gabe Arnold. Gabe did not want to wrestle last year. He did not view himself as a 184-pounder. And if he did, they sure could have used him because they were not scoring. They did not qualify 184 pounds last year. So I think the plan has always been for him to wrestle this year, 174. And I think that's what we see. But I think he's going to have competition there. I don't think it's going to be easy. One, you've got Patrick Kennedy, who's been around a while, and he's been a starter throughout his career as a Hawkeye. But now how does he try to contend for 165 like he did last year? Or does he try his luck at 174, the weight he held down a year ago? I'm not sure how that's all going to play out for Patrick, but there's no doubt about it. There's going to be someone really good not wrestling at the Big Ten NCAA tournament for Iowa. It's going to be some combination of Michael Caliendo, Patrick Kennedy, or Gabe Arnold. My prediction right now is that Kennedy's the odd man out. Now, he's a luxury for those weight classes because if there's an injury, then you've got such a capable replacement with Kennedy. But right now, I think Kennedy's the odd man out. I expect Gabe Arnold to be a very tough out. He's a guy whose defense speaks for itself. Very tough guy to get to. If he can improve his attack rate, he's a national champion contender. If he wants to, if he's still super defensive and just more selective with his attacks, I predict he's a top 3, top 4 kind of guy. But certainly expect good production out of Gabe Arnold for this year. And then at 184, I think it's Nelson Brands. Now I'm saying Nelson 184, but Nelson came on FRL and told JD Rader, I want to go 174. In my mind, I'm going 174. And if that happens, then I think we probably see Gabe Arnold go 184 if he beats out Gabe for that spot. But in reality, I think you probably pull Nelson aside. Hey, you're an NCAA qualifier at 184. Maybe you're a little better size for that weight class. Would you take your last year 184? Maybe that happens, or maybe the opposite happens. They say, hey, Gabe, we think actually you could do better at 184 than Nelson. We're going to put Nelson at 174 where he beat Dustin Plott twice, where he was an All-American. I don't know what they'll decide, but my guess is Gabe 74, Nelson 84, and of course 197 now was Zach Glazier. He's transferred out, and we've got Stephen Buchanan, the number 1 ranked 197 pounder in the country, going to be holding down that weight class for the Hawks. And honestly, national title is very realistic for Stephen. He's top ranked. He beat Jacob Cardenas. Now you got AJ Ferrari entering the weight class. That's obviously someone he struggled with. He's 0-2 against AJ Ferrari. So he's going to have some stiff competition to win NCAAs, but Buchanan absolutely can do it. And then maybe the Hawk I'm most excited to watch next year is Ben Keeter. Ben is Mr. Iowa everything, a football star. I think he was a track star, 4-time undefeated state champion in wrestling. This guy kind of did it all. And I bring up his accolades in other sports to illustrate my next point, which is this is the most focused Ben Keeter maybe has ever been on wrestling in his entire life. He's always been trying to juggle and balance all these things, but now he's full-on focused on wrestling this year. And so with that, I think you can expect some serious improvement for Ben. He's not going to be the biggest heavyweight, far from it. And that's going to be a concern against some of those bigger guys like a Kurt Fleet. He's really big. There's some big heavyweights out there. How he wrestles against those guys could largely determine how he's going to go. And it's a tough weight class. And I think All-American is a more realistic expectation. I don't think he's someone who's ready yet to contend for national titles or a top 3 finish. But I would expect a lot more winning than losing. He's going to make it to the NCAA tournament. I think there's a great chance he finishes that season on the podium. And That's the Iowa lineup. It's a really tough one. There's not as much flexibility there. That 65-74, 84 dynamic is going to be fun to follow. And do we see some surprise guys change their bodies so they can get their way in the lineup? I wouldn't be surprised to see it. But all in all, very, very tough Iowa team. Right now, they're the #2 team in America, and really, on paper, them and Oklahoma State look like the only ones that could give Penn State any sort of challenge. But Penn State sets a very, very high bar. But without a doubt, going to be a very fun year to watch the Iowa Hawkeyes.